Hello and welcome. My name is Lys, and today we're talking about VDMs inside of ZBrush. VDMs stands for Vector Displacement Meshes, and it has been added to ZBrush 4R8. So it's been here for a while, but we haven't talked about them on the channel, so let's do this now. Let's load up our faithful dog. We're going to subdivide him a bunch. So, what are vector displacement meshes? You can find them under these chisel brushes. And if you can see up here, up top, that's the selection of VDMs we have to work with. And what VDMs are, think of them as height maps or alphas, but on steroids. So when you're using a height map, the value goes from black to white, and the dark parts push the model inwards, the gray leaves the model intact, and the white parts push them outwards. So using these values, you can deform the surface inside or out to create the effect you want. But you cannot have undercuts, and that is exactly what those VDM brushes do, is that they have the height value, so inside and outwards, of the alpha, but they also have the X and Y information. So the every vertex of the model can be deformed in any direction, more or less. And so you also have the intensity value. So it's like a vector displacement map, except you cannot actually export them from ZBrush. Well, yes, you can. Here. I haven't done that. But so yeah, it's a brush with a vector displacement map. And so what this does is that it allows you to have a library of assets you've sculpted on a plane, and then you can export that to a brush and then simply kit bash your model. So if you wanted to add ears to something, but you don't want to sculpt them over and over again every time on a new model, you could have this vector displacement map and simply drag it on your model where your ear is. And you can see that the big benefit, like for instance on this elf-like ear, you can see that you have a lot of undercut behind that ear, and that is something you cannot do with a simple height map. And you can see that you have a bit of information inside this inner part of the ear. And so that's something you can do with these vector displacement maps. So how do you create those vector displacement maps? Let's use this star. And so you want to start from a plane. So let's initialize a Q grid like so. Let's go to geometry. So this is what we're going to be using to sculpt and to extract our information. Let's turn on smoothing on divide, and let's give ourselves some geometry to work with. Let's turn back smoothing. We turned off smoothing while we were dividing because we do not want the outer borders to retract. Now that we have enough information, we are going to store a morph target just to be safe. And we are going to sculpt something. So let's see. We're going to mask like this. Then we are going to move it MMV. To give ourselves some basic shape. But if we're simply extracting in one direction, then extruding in one direction, then we are not going to benefit from the vector information. So we need to create some undercuts. So we're going to push this here and here, like so. Now that we have some information here on the underside, this undercut here, you can see here, that's information we can now extract. So you can take as long as you want, make it as clean and polish. Just gonna give it some texture. We do not need to for the benefit of this demo, but let's do it anyways. So here we've made this scale-like sculpt, like so. And now you have two options. You could either just use this subtool, or you can duplicate it, and as many subtools you have on your active work subtool list, let's say, this is going to be however how many you have, because when we looked at our chisel 3D brush, you could see we have a whole list of parts. So if you want to create a brush with every possible variance you want of something, so you would add them all at once in the same subtool list. So you can either do one at a time if you want to have a 3D vector displacement mesh brush that only had one function, but if you wanted to add multiple of these at the same time, you would simply add those subtools to the list. So for this example, we are going to move this a bit. Turn this off. Simply just to have a visual indication that it's slightly different. So now we have those two in the list. Let's go back to the first one. Let's select those outer borders like so. Invert our selection. Maybe Control and hit in the middle to blur the transition, and we're going to pick the morph tool, and we are going to have a go at the outer border, because if you remember, we stored a morph target at the beginning, so now we are morphing to that morph target, and that is going to ensure that our outer borders are not affected by the transformations we did. Do the same thing on the next subtool, invert it, smooth it, and then we're going to morph it back, because we want the the outer borders to be not to be transformed. So we want to, when we pull out the information from the vector displacement map, we want to pull out the information from the center, not from the sides. So that way we have a clean transition when we used it. So now we have these two subtools. So to create a subtool, you need to pick this existing chisel brushes. These chisel brushes have the vector displacement map properties. So this is where you want to start from. So you click this chisel 3D brush. Now you're going to go to brush, under create, hit that create multi-alpha brush. So it says create multi-alpha brush, but the multi part doesn't matter if you only have one subtool. So if you only have one subtool, you still hit the same button. But if you had multiple subtools, you hit that button and that will create more options to you. So we're going to hit that. Now we're going to hit that top bar to refresh it, because you can see some parts are here, some parts are missing. Hit it to refresh it, and now you can scroll, and our two different subtools are now in the list. So if we go to a new cylinder, make it Polymesh 3D, subdivide it a couple of times. Now, if we do this, let's subdivide some more, we have some scales. And we have variants of our scales. So now we can quickly draw those scales. And since we have an undercut, we can go over some parts of it, like so. And that's about it. That's how you create a vector displacement map, the displacement mesh brush. And you can do anything you want with it. You simply cannot use on your Polymesh 3D. You do not want to use any remeshing technique. So you don't want to use Sculptors Pro, you don't want to use Dynamesh, you do not want to Z-remesh. So you want to start from that clean mesh plane you have, and then sculpt whatever you want, how detailed you want it, with how many undercuts you can make on that model. But simply remember, you cannot change the initial Q mesh you had, and that's the only limitation you really have. And that's about it. I hope you found this video useful. I'm going to leave you with maybe a little Star Wars themed sculpt. I don't know, give you something to look at while you find another video to look at on YouTube. I hope you found this video useful. Leave a like if you did. Don't forget to share, comment, that helps. Comment if you want to see something specific covered on the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya. Hello, you're still there. So I ended up doing a little Chewbacca. I wanted to do something Star Wars themed, since this there's this indie movie called Solo coming out this week. Not sure it's going to be any good, but maybe. Haven't seen it yet. So I did a little Chewbacca. I wanted to try and make a version of the Chewbacca Chewie emoji. So roughly sculpted it out using Dynamesh and a base sphere, like so. nearing the end of the clip, I'll have a little bit using VDM, so it'll make sense. So roughly blocking out the shapes, the form, working only off one reference, so trying to make sense of the side view. The reference image wasn't perfectly centered, not a big issue. Using clay brush to work out the flow. Deepening the inner mouthpiece, redynameshing, then blocking out the bits of hair coming down his chin. Appending a sphere to make the nose. If it's something that is completely different in surface material, surface properties, so you're going here from the fur to this more skin-like leathery texture. So the eyes, the nose, the teeth, the tongue, they are structurally different, so it's easier just to have them on a separate subtool. Here I appended a sphere, and using one of the 3D Gizmo modifiers, I bent it to my will. Appended a cone. Decided to start to distance myself from the reference a bit. Added more teeth. Now trying to build the flow of the hair. Need to clean that sausage area near the bottom. Makes no sense. If I did the entire body piece, it would have hid a lot. I could have hidden a lot of these issues inside the body, but since I'm only going to do a head, using the snake hook to pull out those shapes. Breaking the cone shape from the teeth. Making them a little bit more organic tooth-like. Adding a bit of detail to the tongue, not the thong. Refining some details with the diamond standard brush. I'm committing to some of these creases with the diamond standard brush. Cleaning up these bits under the head. refining them with the diamond standard brush. Now I'm going to use an insert chisel brush, so a VDM brush. I did a few of them myself, and then I started to make the fur, and I found for $2 someone already made something very similar, so I bought it off Gumroad. I'll have a link inside the description. $2 wasn't really worth spending 2 or 3 hours making all the variations. So here I'm breaking out the symmetry in the middle. You want to layer when you have something with like the scales we did in the video. You want to layer them from the bottom to the top, so that way when you make a new stroke, the next VDM will overlap the previous one. There we quickly added some variation, some detail in a few minutes. So it's great for saving time, it's great for quick little concept sculpts or stylized sculpts like this one. Almost finished, so I'm refining some of the planes. This is really what will sell. What really sells the stylized look is when you really commit to a shape. So instead of having something be a bit soft and mushy, if you commit to a plane with the hard polish brush and make it really flat, or if you have a crease and you really cut into it with the diamond standard brush, or if you have a peak, a valley, if you pinch it to make it really sharp, all that really sells the stylized look. And that's pretty much it. Thank you if you stayed all the way to the end. It's much appreciated, and this time I'll stop talking and I'll really see you guys in the next one.